Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin using the power of the pen to support our nation's heroes and law enforcement, signing 23 bills to honor and support the state's active and retired military service members ahead of Memorial Day. Here to tell us more, Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares. AG Miyares, great to have you. What message is Virginia sending with this legislation?
Well, Virginia is open for veterans. If you're a veteran and you live in another state, we want you to move here. If you are getting out of the service, we want you to stay here. And so I was happy to stand with Governor Youngkin just last week as he signed over 20 bipartisan pieces of legislation that came out of the Virginia Assembly. And it's about making Virginia the best place for our veterans to live and work. So we want to reduce taxes on the first $40,000 of your benefits. We want to give educational choice to our military spouses. We want to waive fees, permit fees for veteran-owned small businesses. And, you know, as has been mentioned, over 22 veterans lose their lives every day to suicide. We're creating a suicide prevention coordinator in our Department of Veteran Services. So we value our veterans for a reason. We have the highest concentration of military veterans and active and duty personnel of any state in the union. In my hometown of Virginia Beach and Norfolk, we call ourselves the city of heroes because we have so many. And so when you are, as I do, you grew up in a military community, you have such appreciation for the sacrifices daily that veterans make, their spouses make as their veterans serve overseas. So we want to embrace our veteran community. They very are the best and brightest that we have. They're the reason why we're called the last best hope on earth. And as you go up to Memorial Day and remember those that have fallen, it's important to stand with those. And Governor Youngkin and I talk all the time. We want to serve those that serve us. And I think this legislation is an important step to do so.
You mentioned the bipartisan nature of all this. That was one of the things I really liked as I was preparing for this segment. Scrolling through the various pieces of legislation, you had both Republicans and Democrats sponsoring it, ultimately being signed by the governor. That's what America is supposed to be. So it's nice to see Virginia as a model for that. You also just mentioned a few minutes ago, talking about the numbers, how Virginia has so many military service men and women. Describe just how interwoven the military is into the fabric of your state.
Listen, it is something as simple as when you go to the grocery store here in my hometown and you'll see those that have the scars of wars that are amputees and you interact with family friends that their husband has to be deployed for the next 6 to 9 months on a carrier fighting overseas. And so we do come together here in Virginia. And I have a mentor and a friend who's a Marine who made this remark to me one time. He said, listen, if you go to Arlington National Cemetery and you go among those stars of Davids and those crosses, you know, there's not an R or a D next to anyone's name. And so never forget someone maybe thinks differently than you politically has given the last full measure of devotion to this amazing country. And as we come up on Memorial Day, I think it's so important that we recognize the sacrifices, that we have a military fighting force unlike any others. And if you don't believe me, just look up Korea at night. You see Korea from satellite. Half the peninsula is living in freedom and light. Half the peninsula is in darkness. And the reason why is that 40,000 Americans crossed an ocean and went to a land where they didn't even speak the language. And they bled and they fought and they died defending the Korean people from one of the worst tyrannies the world had ever seen, communism. And they didn't ask for power or money or land. I mean, the only land they asked for was a place to bury their dead. And so we want to honor our veterans, but particularly on this Memorial Day, we want to honor those that really did lay themselves down at the altar of freedom and made sure that we are indeed the last best hope on earth. And so we want to embrace them. We want to support them. I think it's a moment that we don't think of this weekend as just a 3-day holiday. We recognize that on Monday it's a solemn occasion to recognize those that gave all for us so we can live every day and enjoy, going to the beaches and enjoy criticizing our government, but really living in freedom. We wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for our veterans. We're honored to honor them.
Beautifully said. Jason Miyares, Attorney General from the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you, sir.